Today I'm making an Italian dinner with some good strong flavors. It starts off with Bagna Cauda, which is an anchovy garlic dip. You add vegetables and bread, you kind of serve it like a fondue. For dinner, we're having a sausage lasagna that I make right in this skillet, which I think is fun. And the salad also has some potent flavors with radicchio and endive and arugula. And to finish it off, vanilla ice cream, but we're gonna top it with amaretto. Now, Bagna Cauda features anchovies and garlic, and the type of anchovies you use can really make a difference. You don't want to use anchovy paste. Anchovies that are canned or jarred in olive oil are great here, but if you have the option to get salt-packed anchovies, it makes a huge difference. The nuance and flavor of the salt packing is just incredible. So these are actually whole fish that are gutted and packed in salt. And for this recipe, you need 3 ounces of anchovy fillets. All right, so now we have to rinse the salt off at the sink before we prep. All right, now to prep these guys, you want to pat them dry. We have to take the backbone out, but you want exactly 3 ounces. To prep them, it's very easy. As I mentioned, it's a whole fish, so there's a backbone in the middle. And to get rid of that, you just want to take a paring knife and you can start at the tail. Give yourself a little to work with, and then you can use your fingers and you can really just peel like that. Just peel that fillet away from the backbone. And this is what's packed in olive oil and jarred. 1 anchovy is about 0.2 of an ounce, so got to do a few of these to get to 3 ounces. All right, last one. Oh, I'm at 3 ounces. Snack. Back to give them another rinse. All right, now we're ready to start cooking. Pat them dry just to get rid of any extra moisture. And first thing we're gonna do is make an anchovy cream. And that means all these anchovies are going into a blender. Now, cream is not traditional for a Bagna Cauda. In fact, I developed this recipe 20 some years ago, and I was surprised because Bagna Cauda is usually only made with olive oil. But I found one recipe that used heavy cream and I loved it. So it's not traditional, but it's how I like to do it. So this is a cup of heavy cream. All right. Now this just goes on the blender about 5 seconds to make anchovy cream. Lid on. You definitely don't want this stuff hitting the ceiling or you'll smell it for a while. All right. Just about 5 seconds here. All right, let's take a look here. It surprisingly has a very mild aroma. You think it would be really potent, but it doesn't, because I rinsed the anchovies, and again, these are the salt anchovies, so they just have a much more complex flavor. All right, now time to get cooking. Just a little saucepan. We're gonna add a tablespoon of olive oil. And I mentioned the flavors in this dip are anchovy and garlic. So here I have some fresh minced garlic, 5 cloves, and I mince these by hand so that every last piece of garlic is there, and just a pinch of cayenne. On the stove this goes, medium heat, heat everything up, and we want to smell the garlic. You want it to be fragrant. It takes a couple minutes. Oh, I can start to smell it. It's good and fragrant. Time to add the cream mixture. We're gonna turn the heat down, let it simmer 15-20 minutes until the flavors have rounded out and it's thickened a little bit. This has been simmering about 15 minutes and it's thickened a little bit. So at this point, before you serve it, is when you want to season it with salt and pepper. I've never needed to add salt, but a pinch of pepper always goes a long way. Now to serve this, you want to serve it warm. So I have this little fondue pot. I know it's the sweetest little fondue pot. Holds about 1.5 cups. Great for chocolate or Bagna Cauda. And it's great because it has a little tea light underneath. And that just keeps the sauce nice and warm while you serve it. And I love serving it with an array of vegetables and bread. All right, bread first, because bread is the best. You get the anchovy and the garlic, but the vegetables add a nice bright crunch. The radishes on their own are a little spicy and crunchy, and with this warm, creamy anchovy dip, perfection. All right, so this is the appetizer. Next up, we gotta make the lasagna and the salad. You're supposed to catch that, Ziggs. We're working on it.
Love our in-depth reviews? Get the latest from our reviews team delivered straight to your inbox. Our well-equipped cook newsletter provides top product picks, no-nonsense buying guides, and must-try recipes. No extra fluff, just the smartest ways to shop, save, and cook. Sign up for free now at americastestkitchen.com/newsletter.
Time for the main course, sausage lasagna. And we're gonna cook everything right in the skillet, from the sauce to the finished dish. And any cast iron will work here. Cast iron is great because it has tall sides, so you can fit a lot of lasagna. It also retains heat, so the lasagna stays good and warm during serving. But the thing is about cast iron, it's really heavy. It takes a while to heat up. So I'm gonna put this on the stove, medium heat, let it heat through while we start prepping. All right, so while that's heating up, time to chop an onion. Nice big onion here. It's a good size lasagna. So you want about a cup of chopped onion. This is going into the sauce, so you want to cut it pretty fine. First cut vertically towards the root, but not through the end. You want those pieces of onion to hang together. And then we're gonna cut horizontally. You can go once or twice, and then we're gonna go the other direction to get a nice fine dice. All right, into a bowl this goes. We're gonna start cooking it right in that skillet that's been heating up. Oh, she's good and hot. Time to add some oil, about 2 tablespoons of oil. All right, in go the onions and some salt, about half a teaspoon of salt. So we're gonna cook this about 5 minutes or so. You want the onions to soften and brown just a little bit. I'll keep my eye on it and I'll stir it every so often, making sure there's no hot spots. While that's cooking away, let's talk about the tomatoes. So we're making our own tomato sauce, and different brands of tomatoes have different consistencies, especially if you're talking about crushed tomatoes, which is what most people use for a sauce. What I found is better if you buy whole tomatoes in their juice and you crush it yourselves. You just get a much more consistent sauce. All right, so 3 cans in there with all their juices. Just takes a couple pulses to make nice, easy crushed tomatoes. All right, perfect. Some big pieces, totally okay. Most of it's nice and crushed down. Seeds are good to go. All right, so we're gonna set this aside. We'll add it to the skillet when we need it. Back to the onions. Oh yeah, the onions cook so quickly in a preheated pan. All right, so they're softened, they're translucent, they're a little brown around the edges, which is perfect. Next up, some garlic. We have 3 garlic cloves. I'm just gonna use a garlic press them right into the skillet. And some crushed red pepper flakes. And a little extra for luck. Okay. Just want to cook this about 30 seconds or so, just until it's fragrant. You can smell the garlic. Oh yeah, that smells good. Now I said it was sausage lasagna, so here I have a pound of Italian sausage. Now you can use hot Italian sausage, sweet Italian sausage, which is what I have here. All works well. And I'm just gonna add it to the skillet. All right, now when I'm adding this to the pan, I like to break up the sausage into pieces. I feel like it just makes it easier for it to brown and cook more evenly. Just gonna wash my hands. Oh, it's starting to come together. You really want it to cook through before you add the tomatoes, so it's no longer pink. This takes a few minutes. You notice the whole time I'm going at it with a wooden spoon, just breaking it up into smaller pieces. That way you'll have nice fine pieces throughout the lasagna. Sausage has been cooking and it smells incredible. It's no longer pink. I really busted it up into nice little pieces. So it's time to add the tomatoes. I'm gonna add them right from the food processor. Oh. All right, just gonna stir these tomatoes in. You want this sauce to simmer about 10 minutes. It'll get a little thicker, but really it'll deepen in flavor substantially. While that simmers, we can talk about the cheese fillings. Classic, we have ricotta, mozzarella, and parm. For the ricotta, we're gonna flavor it and thicken it a little bit. We're gonna thicken it with an egg yolk. So here I have an egg. I have this little guy because I wanna save the white. I hate wasting food. And egg whites, there's a really good cocktail I make that uses an egg white, but also my daughter loves chicken and dumplings, and the dumplings I make use egg whites. So this is a future dinner for Marta, and it just uses one egg white, so this is perfect. We're gonna flavor it with some thyme. You wanna use a 1/4 teaspoon dried thyme. There we go. And some salt and pepper, about a 1/2 teaspoon of each. We're using table salt. Again, if you're using kosher salt, you want to use more because the crystal size is bigger, so it measures differently. All right, just gonna mix this all up. That's good for the ricotta. Now for the mozzarella, I'm using the good stuff, the whole milk mozzarella. The part skim stuff is okay, it just doesn't have that flavor. And if you're cooking for company, might as well go with the good stuff. To that, we're gonna add some good Parmesan. You want about 1/4 cup. So you just wanna grate right into the mozzarella. That looks good. So I'm gonna toss these together. That's good for the cheeses. And last but not least, the lasagna noodles. I mentioned earlier that we're using no-boil noodles. There's lots of brands of no-boil noodles out there. I like these kind. They're flat, they don't have the ridges. I like them because they're a bit more tender and they work well in this recipe. You only need 12, which is less than a full box. And we're gonna break them into pieces. That way they fit more easily into the skillet. So to break them just in half, rough pieces is okay. Makes a good noise. All right, last one here. There we go. The noodles are ready. All right, let's check on the sauce. This looks perfect. It's thickened nicely. All right, so I'm gonna take it out of the pan because again, we're gonna build the lasagna right in the same skillet. So turn the heat off. Let's grab the pan. I'm gonna dump all the sauce into a bowl. A little sauce left in the pan is okay. Now we're gonna build the lasagna right back in the pan, starting off with a little bit of sauce, about 3/4 cup. I'm gonna avoid any big pieces of sausage. There we go. Next, the lasagna noodles. I know, it's a round pan, and I've got square noodles. So we're gonna do 8 noodles per layer. Put one in the middle, and you just put the other 7 around. This is a 3-layer lasagna, so I'm gonna add 1/3 of the ricotta. Little dollops of ricotta right on top of the noodles. And there we go. Just gonna spread it out a little bit using the back of the spatula. Hello, lasagna. Now we're gonna add some of this mozzarella Parmesan mixture. I'm gonna divide this into 4s by eye. You just want about 1/4 of it per layer because you want some on the top, obviously. All right, a little cheese. There's no shortage of cheese in this lasagna. So if it looks a little skimpy on one layer, don't you worry. All right, now we're gonna add some sauce again, visually dividing everything by 3. So we wanna add about 1/3 of the sauce. I know from experience, that's about 1.5 cups. There we go. You wanna cover the noodles, because again, the noodles are no boil, so they really take the moisture out of the sauce, and that's how they cook through. First layer done, on to 2 more layers. All right, this lasagna is ready for the oven. 400 degrees, middle rack, about 1/2 hour, a little longer, until the noodles are nice and tender and that cheese on top is a gorgeous golden brown. It's been a little over 1/2 hour. Oh, goodness. Look at that beauty. That's a lasagna. It's obviously ripping hot. You can tell by the bubbles around the edge. So we gotta let it sit here, cool at least 10 minutes, allow it to set up, firm up. While that cools, and you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna take this towel. I've burned myself so many times on hot handles. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna wrap the towel just around the backside, put it right over, just like that. Okay, let that sit while we make the salad. And I mentioned earlier, this salad has some strong flavors, including radicchio, endive, and some arugula. So for the radicchio and the endive, you want to wash it after you prep it. So I'm going to cut it in half. I'm going to cut out the core. You want a small head of radicchio here. And you can cut it or you can tear it into pieces. I kind of like using my hands. I like tearing it. So just taking a couple layers at a time. You want to be able to stab it by a fork and fit it into your mouth. So use that as your guide as to how big. All right, so now for the endive, 2 heads of endive. And we're going to slice it about what is that, about 1/3 of an inch crosswise. Now down towards the core, you're gonna find a hard part. You wanna take that part out. You don't want that part to wind up on someone's dinner plate. Then all this goes right into the salad spinner. Then we're gonna give these leaves a good wash. All right, that's all good and washed. Time to combine all these greens. Oh, it's such a pretty salad. All right, got my salad hands. These silly things were a gift from a friend. She's not much of a cook, but she thought they were cool. And I thought, oh, those are silly. And I love them. They really get in there and help pick up greens without bruising them. That's good enough for now because we have to dress it yet. Now for the dressing for this salad, which is on the bitter side, we're gonna use balsamic, which is on the sweeter side. So for this balsamic dressing, we're actually gonna use 2 vinegars. The first being balsamic vinegar. So I'm gonna add 1.5 tablespoons of good balsamic. And we're gonna add 1.5 teaspoons of red wine vinegar. It's a really simple salad, but it's the ratios of the oils and the vinegar and the greens that makes it work. So I'm being pretty careful when I measure, which is not usually how I make dressing. All right, so 1.5 teaspoons of red wine. Next, some salt. This is table salt. I'm gonna add 1/4 teaspoon. And a little bit of pepper, 1/8 teaspoon pepper. And the olive oil. You wanna use good olive oil here, and it is 6 tablespoons, which is just over 1/3 cup. There we go. Now, the recipe has you actually whisk this in slowly to make an emulsion, which really works well, but I really just prefer to use a jar because it's easier for me, it uses less dishes, and I can make this ahead and at the last minute, just shake it up. And this is enough of emulsification before you dress the salad. Plus, it makes you feel like Tom Cruise in Cocktail. We're gonna drizzle a little bit on. I like using most of it. This salad is so simple, but every time I make it and I serve it to company, they ask me what's in the dressing as though I had some secret ingredient. Nope, I just measured it. All right, set that aside. Time for the lasagna, which has been cooling oh so nicely. It's no longer ripping hot. I'm gonna add some fresh basil. You want a little basil with every bite, so you wanna cover the top pretty nicely. So let's get some tasting plates. Now I'm gonna cut the lasagna. What I like to do is cut it through the middle in about thirds, and then you can cut it this way. Oh, this piece right here, going in with a flexible spatula. Oh yeah, hello. Next up, some salad. Oh yeah. Of course, you gotta serve, if you're having people over, a little glass of wine is always a nice thing to have. And what goes really nicely with this is a Barolo. Barolos come from the northern part of Italy, the Piedmont region. They don't export a lot of them, so that's why they tend to be a little bit on the more expensive side. Made from the Nebbiolo grape. So great for company, it works well with a hearty pasta or a braised meat or steak off the grill. All right, I'm going right in for this lasagna. Oh, it's so hot. Oh, you can see the noodles cooked right through in the oven. Ooh, it's a really good lasagna. It has a fresh, clean flavor because we made our own sauce, but it has a heartiness thanks to the ricotta and the mozzarella. And then with this salad, perfection. Don't forget, we still have dessert. Now it's vanilla ice cream, but I'm gonna show you how to gussy it up with some cookie crumbs. Love what you're watching? Take your cooking to the next level with our Essential membership. Get instant access to thousands of recipes, tips, techniques, product reviews, and step-by-step videos. Our Members app allows you to search by ingredient, set dietary preferences, and save your favorite recipes. For those looking to level up, our newest feature, ATK Classes, offers more in-depth instruction led by ATK experts, so you can gain greater confidence in the kitchen. Start your free trial by visiting the App Store or going to americastestkitchen.com/YouTube today. It's time for dessert. Now this dessert is like the rest of the meal. It's very simple, but the flavors are surprising. And it's based on a dessert my mother used to make all the time when she had people over. And it was ice cream and a little bit of ground espresso and scotch over it. Now today I'm gonna do something similar, the vanilla ice cream and the espresso, but I'm gonna use Amaretto liqueur and Amaretto cookies for a little bit of crunch. So I grew up with these cookies. They always come in a red box, or back in the day they came in a red tin that you saved and put buttons in or whatever. And they're always wrapped in these papers. Now, back in the day, the papers had 2 cookies in them, but today this brand just has 1 cookie and it's wrapped already in plastic, which is perfect for us because we're gonna crush this into crumbs. And again, it just adds a little texture and flavor to the ice cream. Just using a rolling pin, coarse crumbs. That's about it. Now, I mentioned Amaretto liqueur. You can have it over ice. It's often used in cocktails. Or today, we're gonna pour a little bit over ice cream. So you just want, about a tablespoon or so. Oh yeah. Oh. And then the instant espresso. Just wanna sprinkle a little bit on top. Just adds a little bit of flavor. That looks good. And then for texture and flavor, these cookie crumbs. And that's it. I mean, how simple. Again, it feels kind of casual, but when you go in and take a bite, you get the amaretto, you get the espresso, you get the crunch. It is so good. I mean, you can't buy ice cream with this flavor, but oh, I love it when the espresso starts to dissolve in the liqueur. It gets that sort of melty texture. The other thing is, this is obviously an over 21-year-old dessert because it has the liqueur. But if you did have kids at the table, you could just make an ice cream sundae for the little kids. Let them put whatever they want on their ice cream. See you next time. If you're ready to take your cooking to the next level, head over to americastestkitchen.com and get a free trial of our ATK Essential membership. While you're there, you can sign up for our free email newsletters and download our app. So, what are you waiting for?